back to Countdown to Destruction. This is episode 8 of our podcast looking back at the TV show The Leftovers. My name is Matt Waters. I am a first-time viewer of all of this content. I am joined by Ben Phillips, who is very much not a first-time viewer. Leftovers and Dame Lindelof mega fan Ben Phillips. How are you this episode?
I'm good. It's not boiling hot tonight.
It's okay. It's okay.
Heat wave is kind of maybe sort of over, maybe.
Yeah. I found the time to stop building a Lego Voltron and start podcasting. So here we are. We are deep into season 2. We are passing the halfway point with these 2 episodes. So
we are officially in the second half of the show.
Jeez, yeah. Overall, there's only going to be, 14 episodes of this podcast?
Yeah.
And this is episode 8. Maybe we'll round it up to a nice bonus 15. I don't know. Who knows? Something for after October 14th. If we're all still here. Who knows? Let's get started with episode 5, No Room at the Inn. This first aired November 1st, 2015, written by Damon Lindelof and Jacqueline Hoyt. I keep saying it, they're the best writing pair for me. They did Two Boats and a Helicopter, they did Solace for Tired Feet, and they did Access Mundi. Directed by Nicole Cassell, making her Leftovers debut. She's done episodes of The Killing, The Americans, Vinyl. She did a film called The Woodsman. There you go. I did my own research this time.
She's the director of the Watchmen pilot.
Is she really? God,
she is.
I am hyped for that. I don't give a shit about Watchmen anymore. I'm excited for this team to be back together, you know? Yeah, so this, much like Two Boats and a Helicopter, is a Matt episode. So boo yay, depending on feelings there. We'll get into this at the end of this episode, I think, because you know my broad thoughts on this. But let's just do what we do. So we open with another fine edited montage. This time it's Matt and Mary's daily routine. He reviews video footage of her sleeping. He looks after her, empties her catheter, he feeds her, he brushes her teeth. They go to church, they buy the same food, they eat the same food, they go to bed. They do it again and again. We see this cycle out 3 full times. Obviously, this has happened every single day he's lived in Miracle, which is like 6 months, right? Or something like that.
It's a decent length of time.
Yeah. So on this 3rd cycle, Matt snaps at her. So let's do this. So that first cycle, we see typical happy kind of doofus Matt with that little smile on his face, and he's perfectly happy to do all of this. And then by that 3rd one, because every night he says "I love you, good night," he kisses her, he goes to sleep. And by this 3rd time, he's muttering his good night, and then he physically grabs her, and he's like shouting at her. He's sort of like, it's grabbing her by the jaw and being like, look at me and stuff. And that moment when he realizes, oh, I record all of this, don't I? And he goes and shuts the laptop down. It's like, it was there before with Matt. He does have this quiet darkness to him. I mean, he's not murdering dogs and raping people, but there is a sort of definite everyday sociopath about Matt, I would say, and you see it here for sure.
I wouldn't call him a sociopath. I just think
that's a poor choice of words. But he's got this. He has a temper beneath this like whiter than white, lovely Christian man who loves everyone and thinks good things.
Yes, but I also
and
think
don't we all? It's just we're seeing it come out in front of us.
Yeah, it's just interesting because he's mostly in check. Like, he lashes out and he's got his bad side, as we saw when he was like writing the articles about people and stuff like that. But this is the first time we've seen him actually like manhandle someone.
I think it's just more shocking because of how sickeningly nice he is in his day-to-day life, to see the flip to something a little bit more like typical anger type stuff. Like, I feel he just, it's like his temper, like he's got a high threshold, but he will snap, and it seems a little bit more jarring because of how he is normally.
Yeah,
and seeing him, put his hand on her and stuff, it's a bit like, whoa, dude.
I mean, this episode does have a lot of things to say about consent.
It does, and he says this isn't fair to her, because obviously, he is claiming she woke up for one night, they had this one beautiful, lovely night together, and then straight back to this. And him saying this isn't fair, like, fucking think how she feels, my dude. Like, if she is able to fully perceive... I mean, he said that she claimed she had no memory since the accident, so potentially good for him. But if she is fully cognizant of everything, she just can't do anything. And you're putting her through this every single day. Boring enough as it is if you can't move, but if you're then being subjected to just looking at the exact same routine every day in the hope that you're going to bring her back again, like, my word. I know that he means well by this and he's trying to wake her up, and, you know, in his mind he treats her very lovelily, and, you know, he says all these nice things to her and blah blah blah, but just on some level this is all a little bit grim, and, like, where do you get into a point of, like, is this even a life? You know, tricky subject, but
it's just one of those, like, I like how they don't overstay its welcome. They obviously, like, go for the Groundhog Day beats of, like, this is the same day over and over again.
Yes.
But
they
replicate
what he did on the day she woke up in order to induce the same impressed, as if the same result, as if, you know, like, eating a burrito is what did it. But
him eating a burrito, not even anything she did.
Eating blended mush.
Yeah, and it's like they just literally play out for the pre-credit sequence, and
I think 3 times is a good number. Like, you're like, oh, okay, but you see the changes by that third one, and
it really gets the song stuck in your head.
It does. Good song choice as well, and you do hear it later, but with, like, a nasty bit to it.
I think I also really like that he does check himself at the end.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like he is now, like, properly broken and is, like, abusing his comatose wife. Like, he looks at the video, he looks directly at the laptop and the camera and sees what he's doing. Just like, I need to change. I need to change what I'm doing. I'm not going about this the right way.
Yeah, so he snapped. You know, this is him, like, stopping, trying to replicate that exact routine, I guess. Well, we don't know, because the next day was going to be different no matter what, and then we'll get to it. I do like that during the montage you see the guy with the goat while he's shopping, and we'll finally get that addressed in our next episode. So speaking of, you know, the next day was going to be different, they drive out of town in the morning for a medical appointment. He gets her scanned every 6 months to see if there's any changes. Of course, there are none. However, none to her condition. But a nurse frantically stops them from leaving as it is revealed that Mary is pregnant. And Matt has to sign a waiver of liability to absolve the hospital from any potential harm done to the baby while they were testing her for her paralysis and stuff. So before they even get there, when they're driving out of town, seeing everybody rushing the bridge to try and get in, with the police being like, you know, stay in your car, and, like, tackling them and everyone running, it's like a goddamn zombie movie almost. So, like, the music playing over as they drive through the shanty town and, like, looking at it, it's all just that little bit. I love that Miracle is this sort of sinister, everything's not quite right town. That's probably my favourite thing about season 2, is this setting is as much a character as anyone else. That's such a wanky thing for anyone to say, like the setting is a character or whatever, but I think it is appropriate here.
But the thing is, it's, like, unsettling in, like, a remarkably believable way.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like, oh, there is something weird going on. It's just like people really want to fucking get into this place for whatever reason.
And it's like, it feels like it's going to build to a fever pitch of some kind. Like, eventually there's going to be too many of them to hold back, or they're going to try too hard, or, you know. Matt, of course, drops his phone in his own piss, because everything bad happens to Matt all the time. Christopher Eccleston has to say to someone, I dropped my phone in a toilet.
That's a really good impression.
Thank you. Matt has a very specific accent. Of course, his ringtone is hallelujah. It's like, oh, be more of a cliche, Matt. Anyway, let's get to the big fucking bombshell of this entire episode. Matt having to defend himself from someone who's not quite accusing him, but basically is that he raped his comatose wife, is an incredibly grim plot point that we're going to follow through this episode and potentially beyond. Now, Matt's wife is called Mary, and... if we're going for some sort of virgin birth angle here, gross. I know he's not trying to claim that she became pregnant without sex, but, you know, that's a little bit too on the nose for my liking to not be a thing they're going to do. Yeah, this man clearly does not believe him. And he's like, you know, oh, if she can't consent to these tests, she can't consent to anything. And then, you know, Matt has to just keep it. She woke up. She was awake when it happened. It's like, oh, dude, this is not going to be a good time for you.
Thing is, I like that the hospital administrator is just like, this is going to be an issue that comes up later. I am not dealing with this
Get
right
out
now.
of my office, sign this and leave, you fucking freako. I don't know if you raped her, I don't know if your story's true, either way, this is not what I signed up for. There is a 90% chance of miscarriage because of Mary's age and condition, so Matt is completely convinced that this is going to happen because they couldn't have children before. This was a thing.
Yeah, the look on his face throughout this entire scene when he like looks at her of just like complete and utter devotion and besottedness is really, really nice. Even as like every single word out of the administrator's mouth is just like, "This is bad.
Yes, my dude.
This is not a good thing. You potentially raped your comatose wife, and you almost definitely will not have a child at the end of this."
No. Oh god, what a grim situation.
And still
for Matt, a perfect like outcome. Like, oh great, this is why you woke up. It's like, no. Anyway, so they drive back into town, and Matt pulls over to help a father and son whose car have broken down. And Matt is, of course, promptly assaulted. Their wristbands are stolen. When Matt recovers, Mary speaks to him and implores him to get her back into town or she'll lose the baby. She is then back in her condition a moment later, and he was forced to wheel her all the way back. So Matt just will not stop being a charitable Christian dipshit, despite how it never ever works out for him.
To be fair to him, the man broken down on the road.
This is not a world for good Samaritans anymore, Ben. Like,
it isn't. But he's got no reason to think that this man will do what he does.
Think where they're near. I don't know how far from Jordan they are, but like, I would be distrustful of anyone vaguely near Jordan.
Yeah, but Matt's an idiot.
He is, that's what I'm saying. Like, we'll get to it, but just, we keep seeing him do the charitable thing. Do the thing that we all should do in a nice, perfect world, and promptly get bitch slapped by the universe for it. The grimness of this assault is quite something. Like, the guy stomping on Matt's wrist to break it so he can get the band off properly, and taking one off Mary, like, knowing her condition. He says sorry, but like...
Yeah, he clubs Matt around the head with a wrench.
Yes.
Gets his son to do it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he's like, stop, get out of the way. Stomps on Matt,
And Matt has a broken wrist for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and is wailing out in pain, and it's very difficult to watch. So, I think a heavy implication here is, did Mary speak to him? Because, he's got a massive head wound, everything's all a bit, like, bathed in light, and he's woozy as he comes around. I don't know if they're doing anything to her voice, but it comes across very, like, vision-y, And she's like, oh no, Matt, we have to save the baby. And then straight back to it, like the next moment he looks at her and it's like, well, did you imagine this? And then if we're saying that, did she ever wake up, Matt? Like, it's all getting into some very uncomfortable territory.
I guess the only way I could answer that question would be whether it would like to confirm whether or not she ever wakes up again on the show.
Sure,
so...
no, I get that. I'm just saying, like, this is what we're potentially dealing with here. Speaking of uncomfortable, he kisses her on the lips. Don't do that shit. Like, he kisses her on, like, the lips, the cheek, and the neck. It's like, the cheek is fine, forehead's fine, all that's absolutely fine. Don't kiss comatose or paralyzed people on the lips. I don't care that she's your wife, don't do that shit, is my response there, but maybe I'm being oversensitive here. So Matt does manage to convince a ranger of their story by giving lots of details about the town to prove he lives there. So he's admitted to the visitor centre. He is less successful there, but Kevin and John arrive to resolve the situation. But when Matt pushes John about being a very angry man, he rescinds his help and they are tossed straight back out of Jordan. So on the way in, a stranger offers to get him inside, put a pin in that. Matt loses his shit at that guy who, like, there's a wedding that, like, they're going to get married in Jordan, I guess, to, like, bless the marriage or some shit. I don't know. It seems like they're coming into Jordan just for this, right?
Yeah, like, they are getting married. You can see the rest of the wedding kind of group behind them.
Yeah, and they have an argument as they're both in line for being seen. And it's all very, like, it communicates how nutso people go about this place. Like, because this is irrational. Like, they're in a queue. Like, Matt is clearly having some troubles that if you were anywhere else, you'd probably sympathise with. But yeah, this is Jordan. He has to confirm.
I'm going to put this on the Miracle staff members. Because having worked in a retail establishment, you see a queue start getting big, you put another person behind the tills to
Ben,
to try and meet
I've come to realise that the place where we gave customer service is of a different standard to a lot of places, because I go into a lot of retail establishments and I'm just tutting and rolling my eyes. I'm like, this isn't how we did it in my day. And then I'm like, what are you doing, you massive dumbass? Anyway, Matt has to confirm to a random woman that Mary isn't faking her condition to like get them in or whatever. And a strange man knows she's pregnant. So again, people in this visitor centre seem to be endowed with magical powers. So John coming to help is initially somewhat surprising. Like, we have treated him as an antagonist every moment until now, and like him and Kevin rolling up together as buddies, it's like, oh, this is a pleasant surprise. And he talks about how he owes Kevin a debt or whatever. And you see that, like, John carries a lot of authority. Like, he walks in and is immediately like, what are you doing? This guy's got a broken wrist and you've tied him up. And they just immediately acquiesce all his demands, and like he can just wave his hands essentially and get Matt in. John is above the law. John is the law, whatever you want to say. Like, we've talked before about how he sees his whole, like, beating people up and intimidating people who are, like, magical, him protecting the town. He sees that as his job, and being a fireman is, like, secondary to that. So, you get the impression that, like, he is a de facto kind of leader of this town, even though he's just a fireman. So John obviously hates this notion that Miracle healed Mary, or that it will protect the baby. And he makes Matt declare that he raped her because he was sad and lonely. And he would rather that was his story than, you came here and on night one she woke up and all this sort of stuff. Because he hates this idea that there's anything special about the place. So a very intense conversation where John is immediately back to an antagonist, because there is venom and evil in his... It's like a calm evil, as he's like, this is what happened, Matt, and Matt has to just sort of nod along or whatever.
The thing with John is, at this point, is that he's reacting to so many different things that it's almost like, dude, maybe something has happened here.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of evidence that says.
Like, there is something up. I mean, obviously, like, again, it's that thing with the leftovers where every single thing that happens can be chalked up to... Yeah. Like, there's a real world explanation. Like, maybe...
Except for the whole grand departure thing.
Yeah, apart from the grand departure, but
that's
like the
that's the thing I always forget when I'm like, oh, but, there's nothing supernatural going on here. And I'm like, oh, but the entire premise is 2% of the world's population vanished.
Yeah.
Other than that, though.
Yeah, but, like, the handprint guy could just be, like, a really good con artist.
People will read your palm print in exchange for money right now. Like, it's no different. It's just using paint.
Yeah, he's just really defensive. And, I mean, Matt goes along with it at first. It's just Matt's fuck-up is asking...
Well, yeah, he's like, what happened to you? And, like, stating you were like this before. Why do you hate this place? And then John, naturally, is like, what? Tell you what, buddy, get yourself into town. Go fuck yourself. And I love Kevin being like, what the fuck was that, Matt? Like, he just can't help but be who he is. And it keeps getting him into a lot of trouble. And
the thing is, like, Matt isn't wrong. Like, it's pretty obvious.
But you don't fucking... Even if someone is a shitty person, you choose your time to tell them they're a shitty person. You don't do it when they're the only person potentially that can help you get back into town. But Matt is incapable of being quiet, so there you go. So they're back outside of Chardon, like watching him depressingly wheel Mary over that bridge again. So he seeks out this stranger that offered to get him in before. This man is named Alma.
Not Elmer.
Not Elmer. He says it will cost 1,000. And he doesn't have that much money on him. He sees a cross in the middle of this shanty town. He heads to it. He speaks to the woman there. He asks for a loan. She complies after he proves he passes the Christian, religion test. And then he agrees to hit a man with an oar as hard as he can and yell Brian. Sometimes I'm really weirded out by the things I type for these notes.
I love the shantytown.
It's very, very weird.
Because normal
Matt's
people
going to be spending some time here. So.
Yeah. Normal people aren't exactly driven to this place. Like, these are the people who go to a festival 2 weeks in advance. Like, these are the people that go to Burning Man and then hang out in the desert for a few weeks before and afterwards, because why the fuck not? And
man, let's do some peyote and just look at things.
But there's so many different people here, so many different cultures. This is not a Christian thing. This is a for whatever reason. There are people getting married here. There are Christians who want to get hit over the back with oars. There are like people getting high and listening to dubstep, and just so many like weird groups of people that you could easily follow around for like an entire episode of the show, but they don't. They're just kind of left as these half-sketch stories that you've got no idea where they start, where they end, whether or not they're important. They're just, this is a place that attracts people who have maybe trauma or maybe something they need to prove to themselves. Yeah, it's just this kind of like utterly bizarre, like hodgepodge of a place that is just completely fascinating, and I don't think I've seen anything like it on anything.
It makes me want to shower just looking at them all. So on his way in, he observes a naked man in some stocks that I think it says repent on it. I put a pin in that, although it's pretty obvious where this will all end up. I just don't buy that Alma lives in this trailer and can get people in for like $500 to $1,000 a pop. Like, I just don't believe him already.
I mean, I can almost guarantee you that like vent or that drainage pipe opens up like about 10 feet away from the visitor centre or something like that, and it's just like they walk out and you're just like, oh look, there's the security guard there, okay, back we go.
Yeah, it's all just incredibly sketchy. It's like, if you're making this much money, if you can do this, and like, why aren't you richer, and then why are you not living? If you have $400 on you and you need $1,000, why would you ask someone for $500 and not $600? Like, what? He's deliberately leaving himself short just to, I don't know, to prove a point. He won't ask for more than $500.
I think Matt had like change. He had
$440, I think, because the guy says you're $60 short when he comes back with it. But yeah, it's. I was like, what are you doing, you dumbass? Anyway, the Bible quiz is quite fun when he's like having to answer where he received his like religious education and what his favourite book of the Bible is, and like talk about Job's wife and how she's never named and she only speaks once, and this, that, and the other. It's all very like, okay, there you go. This is proved useful.
At least he's not a Lutheran.
Yes.
I was going to look that up and actually figure out like why that's funny.
Yeah, I was like, I think I get that that's funny, but I don't know the ins and outs of why. So this man is named Reggie, so who the fuck is Brian? And I also don't buy that Christopher Eccleston could break an oar over someone's back, but hey, I'll buy it. He's imbued with the power of God and his secret rage.
He does it one-handed as well.
He does, with his offhand as well. And she says you're a bona fide man of God, so if you do this, it counts. It's like, what are you attempting to accomplish, you evil people? Anyway, so he's got his money. He heads back to Alma, who lets them in through a storm drain, which they are promptly washed out of. While searching for shelter in the rain in the shanty town, Nora finds them and gives them a ride back into town in the trunk until they are forced to stop due to a car accident. So the filming of this, like, storm tunnel scene is really weird. Like, you just see Matt disappear off around a corner and you just hear all this nondescript yelling amidst, like, thunder and lightning, and it's weird. You just hear him, like, I don't know, it's just so strange. And, like, the music's starting to come in and then him yelling, and then he washes, the flashlight comes first and then he follows, and yeah, it's all, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just unusual.
It is, and I really like it, because it's like, it really telegraphs the fact that, like, oh, they're coming back out through this entrance. Like, there's no way that they're not coming back out, and it's just nice to hear Matt being an idiot.
Yeah, well, you don't have to look far. So Nora calling in a tip about the girls being found to reduce security. She continues to be this savvy little, like, morally flexible, but ultimately lovely lady.
I get they start to seed the idea that Nora isn't the biggest fan of the Murphys.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, we'll get into that, but
she doesn't think twice about calling in this thing, even though, like, she's got a missing daughter and she's literally given these two people false hope that their daughter has been found. And it's just like, oh, Nora, that's... I mean, I understand you want to save your brother and his wife, but maybe a little harsh.
Does it ever get back to John? I don't know. Maybe she phoned directly to the security center, the visitor center. I don't know. So while they're, like, in the trunk, in the boot, as we would say here, Matt's little story about when he and Mary were in a cramped train car in Germany, very nice, quoting Yeats to her, Again, very lovely. I wish I appreciated poetry more than I do. It all sounded very flowery and beautiful, so I'm sure it's good. I sound like a robot. What is poetry? How does feel, Ben?
It's a lovely scene between a man and his comatose wife, who he's potentially raped, and we're about to come across a death scene.
Yes, because the victim of this car accident is the man who stole Matt's wristband earlier. Matt takes the wristband back. He asks Nora to look after Mary. He escorts the man's son to John. He lets the boy keep one of the wristbands, and he asks John to look after him. And then Matt takes up residence in the shanty town, and he replaces that naked man in the stocks. Now, I've gone over a lot of stuff there, so we'll run it back. But Matt saying aggressively, "It's mine," at an orphaned boy as he takes the wristband off him. It's like, well, okay, Matt, calm the fuck down. Also, arguably, Matt caused this man's death by pulling over. Like, if he hadn't been charitable, that man might still be alive.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
I'm going to disagree with you there.
I mean,
like that man.
He wouldn't have been in Jordan.
He wouldn't have been in Jordan, but that man was going to do something stupid anyway. Like, I mean, like, as part of this entire episode kind of feels like it's structured like a parable. Like, sure. Matt is the man who goes through trial after trial after trial. Like, his wife isn't waking up. He drops his phone in the toilet. He gets beaten up.
I know what we're going for here, man.
No, but I'm just saying, like it's that kind of like end to a parable where the person who did him wrong is punished by God for what he did, and it's that kind of like cyclical storytelling.
In the world of atheism, that man's dead because Matt helped him. But hey, well, Matt is not an atheist, so we'll carry on. But asking Nora and Kevin to look after Mary is just an unbelievably huge thing to request. I know,
especially after they spent like 10 minutes moving goats out the road for him.
Yeah, and like I know that she is his sister and Kevin is a allegedly nice guy, but I could not ask anyone to look after my quadriplegic wife. Is she quadriplegic? Yeah.
I mean, she can't move anything, so
yeah. I don't even know the terminology. My paralysed wife. I could not imagine asking someone to do that, and you know, props to Nora and Kevin for agreeing to it, but
I mean, they've got a newborn baby as well.
I know, and they've got a Jill, and they've got a
Patty. Yeah, but Jill's making puppy eyes at the boy next door. So
I know, we'll talk about that. But so when Matt confronts John and like hands.
1 second, I do want to talk about the goats.
Okay, yes, the goats. I mean, I'm assuming we're tying this all in with that man that.
Well, so this is the thing: is that a delivery goat truck or is it a removal goat truck? Were the goats already dead because they've been sacrificed to the god of Jarden, or are they this man's delivery of goats for which he will be sacrificing them for some at this point unknown reason?
Fair point.
I asked, like, are they pre-dead goats or are they post-dead goats?
Well, now I'm sad. I thought we left the horrible animal mutilation behind us, but
oh no, don't worry. Like goats, the new deers.
Great.
Nothing will be the new dogs.
No. When John and Matt are face to face again, he reaffirms his story about what happened with Mary, and he says, "I will come back when she wakes up, or she will wake up again, and then I'm coming back, and you and I are going to have a talk." And it's like, I sure hope you're talking about the promise of like religious counselling rather than threatening this very violent man that did time for trying to kill someone, Matt. But hey. You know, we're setting that up as something that, like, by the laws of TV must be paid off at some point. These two are going to stand opposite each other and have a tense conversation, I assume. We'll see.
That would be an assumption for a logical way for a TV show to conclude the story.
I mean, I always get frustrated when things like this don't pay off. So, here we go. That Regina Spektor song that plays over this whole scene is beautiful. She is just born to be a soundtrack, isn't she?
She is.
So Christopher
Although it did make me immediately think of 500 Days of Summer.
Okay.
Because it is that song, isn't it?
You're going to have to look it up now.
Us is one song by Regina Spektor. Is there another one?
Orange is the New Black, hey? Yeah, she does that.
I don't think it is the same song.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's a bit...
I mean, it's just, it sounds quite...
slower than that. I know it's already quite slow, but anyway. Yeah. So, Christopher Eccleston bears all for Queen and Country. Climbs that ladder naked, gets in those stocks naked. What did they call this scene on set, Ben?
They called it the sonic screwdriver scene.
Because he was Doctor Who. Oh, clever. Bravo, Mr. Eccleston, for doing that. But yeah, Matt is signing himself up for some repentance and punishment, and he will test himself to... Doesn't he next episode say something that, like... Did he say punishment breeds...
Punishment breeds compassion.
That's it, yeah. So what, he's trying to make everyone be nice or something?
Yeah, I mean, the implication is, like, he breaks the cycle by rejecting the next person who comes along to take away his pain so that he can live with his own pain.
Well, fair enough. Well then, I didn't enjoy this as much as I enjoyed Two Boats and a Helicopter, even though it's structurally so similar, like focusing in on Matt so much. So it's weird that I would like one and dislike the other. I respect everything that was done here in terms of television, like writing and acting and shooting and all of these things. I will never criticise any of that because, as far as I can tell, the standard of that is just permanently high in this show. However, just I personally don't enjoy just watching a character get relentlessly shat on. And, like, I'm not by any means saying that everyone has to have a nice, happy life. Far from it. I enjoy a tragic character. I really like Kevin. Kevin's got all kinds of shit going on for him. But I feel it's sort of... It's never ending with Matt. And he juxtaposes that by being a grinning Christian who is just relentlessly optimistic, and that is just not a personality type that I'm ever going to be sort of like turned on by, as it were. So that 1-2 punch of like watching him just be like, everything's going to be fine, and then watch it all not be fine. I get what we're going for. We're testing his faith as he is a God-fearing man in a godless world. So it's like, you must be... And, it may all work out for him. Everything is on the table in this show. God could be real. He could be like, well done, Matt. You have passed my tests in the season finale. I don't know. And I know I'm not really, supposed to enjoy it, but just that was my thing. I sat and watched this for 45 minutes and I did not feel pleasant. And there is no obligation from the creators of this show or any show to make me feel pleasant. And I get that sometimes TV shows and films want to make you feel sad or angry or whatever, but just that was my takeaway. I sat down and watched this and I was like, well, I didn't have a good time there. I watched it again today and I didn't feel as strongly about it, but just, I don't know, when I'm meted out on how much of this I can watch and I'm engaged by a central narrative and certain characters, and then I get something like that, I'm like, ugh. So and down thoughts.
It sounds like it worked.
Yeah, they nailed it, but I don't know. My reaction wasn't negative.
Yeah, your reaction was a very visceral negative reaction to what you were being shown. But I do think that the emotions are being listed of God, Matt being an idiot, and all the rest of it are maybe not the feelings they're supposed to go for. Because I overall think this episode is really, really wonderful and one of the best examples of what the show can do when it's operating on all cylinders. I think Matt is. I don't think Eccleston is the strongest performer on the show, just because I think Carrie Coon, Justin Theroux, and Amy Brenneman are giving some next level performances at times on the show. But I do think Christopher Eccleston,
he's playing a lot of scenes opposite a comatose person, and he's playing one type of person. In
each season, is basically asked to carry a movie and does a spectacular job.
So we've got another Matt episode coming next season then.
I mean, there is an episode called It's a Matt.
Oh, I do know that. My narcissism made my eyes light up when I saw that.
But yeah, Christopher Eccleston does such a good job as playing this just relentlessly beaten down upon man, and I can completely sympathise that it would be too much, because his life is shit. His life is completely and utterly terrible. But I do think the show does kind of meter out these little positives. No matter what you think about what happened with his wife, he is over the moon that his wife is pregnant.
Yes, and he got her back into the town.
He got back into the town, and he got to stand up to the man at the end and basically said, I am better than what you think I am, and I'm going to prove that. And he does get these little victories. It's just that they come around this kind of even last season, he does fundamentally change how the guilty remnant treat people.
Does it?
But obviously it comes up, well, I mean, like, in terms of, like, he breaks Meg. Like, Meg comes out and...
Oh, yeah. Are you saying that we can blame Matt for Meg?
No. But I'm saying,
He contributed, though.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, when we get these episodes of, like, just this intense misfortune and misery in his life, and whenever we see him otherwise, he's just, like, happy and upbeat. And, like, I just like the assumption that his life is still bad whenever you see him in these episodes afterwards. It's just we're not seeing all the terrible things that are happening to him.
I guess, on some level, I just don't want Christians to be proven right, because then I will have to make some amends with the way I've lived my life. Anyway.
I'm just going to say, look, I'm going to put a pin in this. We're going to get the third episode in the Matt trilogy.
Okay.
In next season, and I really cannot wait to hear your opinions on that episode.
Good. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about Lens. Shorter and shorter episode titles until we get to season 3, which just decides, hey, fuck being able to fit the title of 2 episodes on one line on your website. Fuck you. Lens. Aired November 8th, 2015. Written by Damon Lindelof and Tom Perrotta. You know who these people are. Directed by Craig Zobel, who has done episodes of Westworld, American Gods, and he co-founded Homestar Runner. Go him.
He did.
So, we've just had our Matt episode. Let's do a Nora and Erica one, which I would be far more enthusiastic about, and I am. So, we open with this scientist who travels to Miracle, and he takes readings from the Murphy house and of Nora, and he asks her questions about coming into contact with Evie on the day of her departure, and, like, you know, did you have contact with your family just before they departed? And Nora, of course, tells him to get the fuck away from her. So we are immediately given this idea that the departure happened in a departure-free zone the very day Nora moved in, and that she is potentially causing them. And it made me think of when Jill said, wherever you go, there you are, about Kevin. And, you know, it's all sort of coming back. And, like, you know, Nora came here to escape it, but, like, what if she is the problem? And, you know, we'll explain what lenses are soon. But, yeah, this dude is, like, really... You look at him and you're kind of pissed off.
Yeah, like everything he does in the build-up to this episode is just like, oh, my God, you're a giant prick. Like the scene when he goes through the security at the front of the national park, and he's just like, I'm not putting this through your fucking machine. It's just like, cool. Like, you sound like a level-headed man who is
sitting there on a bus full of people who are there to, like, have a nice, good time, and he's, like, grumpily, like...
But then he immediately goes up to 2 people's houses, knocks on their door, doesn't introduce himself, asks them, like, really invasive questions, then runs off, knocks on someone else's door, and then it's just like, this is not how you do this. Nora has not shown reticence to scientists in previous episodes. Like, she sold her house to people who want to study what went on there. Like, I'm fairly sure if this man came along and introduced himself and actually, like, explained what he's trying to do in a level-headed way, Nora wouldn't be all, get the fuck away from me.
She always opens with, like, hi. And then, like, then it becomes, like, a slight polite suspicion, and then it's, hey, fuck off. Like, she is a pleasant person, but, yeah, this dude is not cool. As someone who interacts with scientists sometimes, accurate. They can be not great. So, this episode deals with Nora and Erica. We're going to kind of follow each of them as they go about their day. Where in the episode it cuts back and forth between them a lot, I've tried to group their goings on and make smart choices. So if we miss something, we're not really. So Nora throws a rock through the Murphy's window and then just proceeds to just go about her day. Like, she wakes Mary and goes to feed her and all this stuff. She later on meets George Brevity, who is from, what a name, by the way. He works for the DSD, her former employer. And after he's turned away from the Murphy's house, attempting to administer this brand new questionnaire, you know, he speaks to Nora, she recommends a breakfast place, they meet there again later, and they discuss this new questionnaire and lens theory. The episode is called Lens Theory. So, her throwing this rock through the window, you mentioned it a few minutes ago, that, like, you know, she is predispositioned to not like the Murphys. I initially took it as like, oh, because John denied Matt entry back into the place, so she hates John. But then there is this suggestion that she may be a bit angry that there was a departure, because she came here to be safe. and then their daughter went missing. So, as irrational as it may be, she might be pissed off at them that their daughter got departed.
Yeah, I don't think they've had... Not all of their reactions with the Murphys have been, like, strong. I'm sure Kevin has told her about the time that John kidnapped him and they left town and went to go to get beaten up by a man and shot and all the rest of it. Like, they're not exactly inspiring safety themselves.
No, they're not. But just, it seems deeper than that.
I do think it is deeper than that, but I do. It's very much like, is this an irrational treatment of these people who are also suffering a very similar tragedy to what she is suffering?
Okay, so Jill offers to feed Mary so Nora can go back to sleep. Who is this angel girl and what happens to the, like, grumpy baby Jesus stealing, choke sex in, fridge hanging out in girl from season 1? This is a different character. She's so nice. Nora and Kevin begin to have some sexy times. He is still handcuffed to the bed, as we closed our episode before with this, where her solution to his sleepwalking is handcuff him to her. And I guess it's now handcuff him to the bed, because handcuffing him to her is not a practical way to sleep. But he has a bit of a freak out in the middle. One can infer that he saw Patty and, had a moment.
Yeah, like, this is really nice. They kind of, they stick to the point of viewness of it, where this is Nora and Erica's episode, and so Patty doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Like, Kevin's there, he interacts with Patty repeatedly throughout the episode, but we never see her, we never see what he sees. And it's nice to get that reminder of, no, this doesn't look crazy. We just know that there is something there, or that we know that Kevin thinks there is something there.
Yeah. So this questionnaire that, Nora becomes very curious about, and she receives phone calls from someone who works with that scientist, and between this person and George Brevity, they mention this word lens or lensing, which is basically that certain people give off ultraviolet rays, and that makes them more...
Well, I think he says something like ultraviolet rays.
Yeah.
He doesn't know too much about it. He just says a type of red.
And they call it a theory. He's not saying this is lensing. He's like, this is a thing that has been written about some sort of scientific journal. But yeah, while she's researching it, she mentions, you brought this up in a previous episode, a carousel where everyone riding the carousel departed, and she says this was never confirmed as a thing, a real cause. But yeah, she brings that up. But yeah, that's why the episode is called lensing. He likens it to when you kill ants with a magnifying glass, I think. And it's just, this notion that essentially she's causing other people to depart because she's
some
bad
people
juju.
Some people focus a kind of radiation that is maybe ambient or something.
The departure energy. She's got big departure energy. By the by, these questionnaires, I call bullshit on the idea that these questionnaires prove whether someone departed or not. And
the Japanese scientists have figured it out, Matt.
Yeah, but Nora asked these questions in the first place, and this is secondary departures he works in, of which there has never been a confirmed one, right? Before this.
Well, I mean, this still isn't confirmed.
Well, he still hasn't confirmed it, no. But this appears to be the first one. There's a whole department for secondaries, and they've yet to have one proven. So they're basically just filling out paperwork and just keeping the bureaucracy going. Necessary work. Yeah, I just find it funny that they're these questions will prove whether this was a departure or not.
But the thing is, it sounds like all the things about the departure seem quite definitive. He goes through the list of the engine was still running, the music was playing, they left all of their belongings behind. No one's seen them in 3 weeks. There's no proof of money leaving and stuff like that. There is nothing here that sounds like someone who has set up a new life somewhere and run off to Mexico or whatever. This is 3 children have vanished and there's no sign of a scuffle. The only thing we know is that Kevin was there and trying to kill himself at the same time as presumably at the same time this was happening.
So Erica, meanwhile, in her day, she digs up another one of these boxes. The bird inside this one is dead. There are also many other dead birds on the ground nearby. She goes around the town. She later finds baby Lily alone on top of Kevin's car, and she brings Lily back to the Garveys. So while she's like checking her email and stuff, also they do it twice where her hearing aids like aren't on, or she doesn't have them in, and you just hear silence, and then you sort of see it's like muffled, and then she switches them on, and it's well done. Her emails, most of them are naturally about Evie and this fundraiser they're having. But there is one that says, I'm worried about John. And I was like, okay. So I feel she hears it all the time that, like, you know, John's doing shit that, hey, could you maybe stop him from doing this shit? She just seems very, like, tired of it. I don't know. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But she rebuffs the mothers of the other missing girls when they ask her to talk to the DSD. She's like, Emily, you smell like alcohol. And it's like, Regina King, you are a feisty woman. So she, in her job, is treating this man that was assaulted by John. Is this...
The scientist from episode 1?
Yes. Is this? Yes. It is him. Yeah, the guy that was testing the water in episode 1, he has been assaulted by John because he was selling the water. So he went from testing it to selling it, wasn't it?
To be fair,
yeah,
$500
yeah,
for a millimetre of water.
Hey, I ain't mad at it, I'm just saying.
I mean, it's savvy business model, but
yeah,
potentially overcharging.
Yeah. She very casually is like, hey, maybe don't press charges because he will come back and do this again, and I don't want my night ruined. And it's just like... Did
you think that sounded like a threat from her, or was that just her stating a fact?
Kind of a little of column A and a little of column B. Like,
yeah, cause I'm just intrigued whether or not, like, is the idea that...
I think it's like I can't do anything about what he does, so here's a smart heads up for you, buddy. When we saw this play out with Isaac, it kind of seemed like she was on John's side, and she was like, well, if you were what you said you were, then you would have seen this coming. And now it seems a little bit more like, look, John is John. I can't stop him. Here's some smart advice. He will come back. And
yeah, prison didn't stop him.
Exactly. And it's like, it's again this idea that John is above the law, like, you know, that like someone could raise charges against him and he would still go and assault this person, like, you know, that with absolute confidence. And like, you know, I just continue to get this idea that John can do whatever the fuck he wants in this town. We'll see if that holds true. So Erica, you know, when she brings Lily back, she invites Nora to the fundraiser. Nora agrees to go. When Nora like brings the baby upstairs to Kevin to be like, hey, you left the baby on the car. Kevin is talking to himself, read as Patty, while like, you know, fixing up the house. Because remember, this house they moved into is a big pile of crap. And I guess this is what Kevin does all day, is fix the house up. Cause
Kevin knows how to strip fucking wallpaper.
Yeah, so don't tell him. Like, when Erica heads back to her house, John asks if Erica thinks that this rock through the window is his fault. She doesn't so much deny it. She's like, you know, why are you taking palm prints then, if you're just punishing people who are like selling their lives? He's looking for someone who left this palm print on the car. He's looking for someone who took his daughter. So he clearly doesn't believe this was a departure, I would say. But
he thinks someone's involved in it in some way. Like, there's no proof of like struggle, but there is this palm print, and
yes,
obviously, like, there is someone who was like, obviously he's gone after Isaac for his palm print, and he's pursuing this pretty doggedly at this point.
Yes. She also says, you need to hit people because you need to hit people. And he's like, I'm trying to get better. So John has just always been an angry man, I guess. So Matt's like assertions like, why are you so angry? On like, what's wrong with you or what happened to you? That's all seems true. He just, while he has this crusade, he also just enjoys beating people up, I guess.
I don't think he enjoys it.
Okay, well, maybe he doesn't enjoy it, but it's a compulsion. Like he has anger and he needs to explode at people.
Yeah, there is trauma or something that is going on inside him that the only way he can express is through physical violence.
So Nora finally answers one of these phone calls again, and they confirm that they believe she is inhabited by a demon. And she laughs and cries this off and then goes to visit Matt, and they argue about the Murphys. So the scientist over the phone says that, like, with her permission, they want to verify the results in laboratory conditions. What? Are you going to, like, make something to part? Like, in a lab, like a
mouse?
mouse.
We don't even know what the reading was. We just know that like he managed to get.
This was very strong positive data. Like,
yeah,
what does that mean?
Yeah, she kicked your machine. Like,
yeah, that's true. So the exact quote is, "We believe the demon Azrael has chosen you as his earthbound instrument. This entity resides in you through no fault of your own, and he causes all the chaos in your blah blah blah." That is fucking wild. That is like the plasma beam that eradicates all human matter. Wild, like fucking Azrael.
It's my favourite thing about The Leftovers is that they will just do this occasionally.
Presented
and it's like,
by a scientist.
It's that thing where like it's that thing like on Lost where you'll go to like Lost forums and people are going like, the reason why they're all on the island is because and it's just like, what the fuck are you on? Like the show has presented none of this stuff as like fact, and it's exactly that. It's these guys know what kind of people come along to watch their shows, and they are taking the piss out of them. Like,
oh, it's me, isn't it? Anyway, yes. So that's a theory that's been presented to Nora, that she is inhabited by a demon. You know,
speaking of Lost, the scientist on the phone is Sonia Walger,
who is
a Penny from Lost,
whose boat it is not.
It is not Penny's boat. I do believe that she is the only Lost cast member who ever appears on The Leftovers.
Wow.
I will eat something if I'm proven wrong, but I can't remember anyone going forward.
What if that Labrador is in The Leftovers?
I think that Labrador's dead.
Probably. Lost was a long time ago.
I think they replaced the Labrador.
Oh, that's sad. Well, I'm sad now. More dog murder at the hands of Lindelof. No, I'm sure they didn't kill her.
Yeah, it's fun. It's also fun because Sonia Walger obviously did a lot of phone acting on the show. Like, her most iconic scene is in The Constant, where her and Desmond are on the phone to each other, so it's nice that she gets to do this. She gets to spout some utter inane rubbish.
I believe you're inhabited by Azrael.
That might actually be the key to the show, but I can't say anything, so...
Yeah, well, maybe we're going to have season 3 with all the higher demons and Nephilim, and it's all just going to be great. I'm a massive fucking nerd. So when Nora is talking to Matt, you know, who happily gets down from his stocks, puts on his jeans to talk to his sister, you know, he implies that she has hostility towards the Murphys, and she says, why would I feel hostile toward them? And he says, I don't know, why would you? And she says, fuck you, Matt. But then continues to, have this conversation. You know, brother and sisters fight, you know. So
the thing is, I love, they cut to her drinking a cup of tea or whatever, and it's just like, oh, you told him to fuck off, but you are well aware that he is spot on in his diagnosis of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So, Erica, meanwhile, she notices someone coming to the door, and it's a boy dropping off a pie on their porch. And she runs every day, so we see where this goes. She chases him down with her hearing aids out, so it's all very intense. She discovers that these are being delivered on behalf of Virgil, who I don't know if we established his name. We did when Nora met him. He is this guy that lives in the little trailer covered in Christmas lights. He seemed to know about Kevin's condition. He knew that Nora had lost people. And Michael went to pray with him in the first episodes. And we saw this pie dropped off, so it's all being looped back. She demands he stay away from her family, and then she goes home to get ready for the fundraiser. So, it seems pretty... connecting some dots here, that he is her father, and he potentially, or an uncle or something, and he caused her deafness, so John shot him in anger. That's what I have stitched together here. We know that John shot him, and he says, I am your family.
Why do we know John shot him?
Well, we hear that in a minute. Michael says, what's he going to do, shoot him again?
Oh, yes, he does. Yes.
There you go. I'm not obtaining information earlier than I should. When she goes, he asks if she wants to take a bird, and she's like, why would I want to do that? But we know she's doing stuff with birds, so she's just mad at him. She's hypocritical here. So when they're getting ready for this fundraiser, she confronts Michael about praying with Virgil, and as I said, he says, well, what's he going to do, shoot him again? And yeah, it's all just... I'm very curious about the family dynamic of the Murphys. I'll just say that, I guess.
This is the clearest view at them that we've had so far. In fact, at this point, the only one who's kind of still a mystery is Evie. We don't really know much about her at all. As Evie astutely says later on in this episode, Michael has his faith, so he'd be fine. We know that John's got this intense anger, and we know that we get a better picture of like what like she's dealing with, and like we get how they kind of like figure into each other and stuff like that. And this episode's a big kind of like open up about the town and the dynamics between the people who live nearby and in this family.
Yeah. So all this back and forth has been building to the fundraiser where both these women are, so we can stop cutting back and forth. So at this fundraiser, Jerry, who is the man that murders goats, he comes in with a goat, and Erica screams at him, and is like, no, stop this shit. This gives Nora the distraction she needs to steal the questionnaire from George Brevity, the brand new one from the Japanese that he wouldn't let her see. And she leaves. She follows Erica out, knowing that everyone's here, so she can go to her. So before they go in, Laurie calls Nora, and she doesn't look in a good way. She's smoking again, and she asks if Tom is there, who Nora, confirms she's never even met Tom. So when we last saw Tom, he was with Laurie, so something has happened, and I'm sure we'll find out soon. But yeah, that was an interesting non sequitur.
Yeah, and all from Nora's point of view, so we don't get much more other than that.
Well, I wonder if next episode or something we'll see it from the other side, and we'll see Laurie making this phone call or something. I don't know. When
definitely not next episode.
Okay, well, when they arrive at the fundraiser, Nora makes a pledge. I'm sure this was intentional, but what it made me think of was, the donations were done by PayPal, and they're like, oh, I can set you one up if you don't have one. It just immediately reminded me of when she went to Holy Wayne, and it was all like, some weirdo at a laptop. He's like, PayPal it.
No, she definitely reacted to that.
Yeah. So Erica chastising everyone for performing the same tasks they did on the 14th, like that lady who is wearing the wedding dress in the pilot that we saw. She was trying it on the day, so she tries it on every day, and Erica's like, you take pictures with tourists and stuff. Fucking go, Erica here, unloading on these townspeople and just calling bullshit on it of they're gone, it happened again, we're not safe, so stop fucking killing goats. And she even tells off John, who... He allows things like the goat murdering and the wedding dress and stuff, but then he goes and beats people up for claiming the town is special, and it's like, you can't have it both ways, my dude. You can't believe there's no miracles and then allow shit like this to happen.
Yeah, it's almost like it comes from a point of view of for profit, because you get the feeling that the wedding dress woman isn't doing it for money.
Well...
we haven't seen her, money exchanging hands. She's on the tour point. She's doing it because she's, slightly famous, and that makes it more...
So he just resents people commoditizing the miracle aspect.
Yeah, it begins to feel like that, because, the goat guy isn't doing it for money. He's just wandering around murdering goats.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, just let him do it. And it's like, shut the fuck up, people.
He does bring a plastic tarp with him.
He does make sure there's less mess. Still some, but hey. Right, so this has all been building to the fucking money scene of the episode. Nora goes to Erica, gives her the questionnaire, claiming that she's scared that the questions will prove that Evie didn't depart. I guess if she didn't depart, that's bad, because she's probably been murdered or kidnapped or something, or I don't know. Erica one-ups her and is like, hey, come in and ask me these questions. And we get... 5 straight minutes of interrogation with Nora slipping back into her old role and asking all these questions very sort of robotically. Carrie Coon nails this sort of the inaneness of them and how they seem so irrelevant to anything, but that's the whole point. But Jesus Christ, this is all intense and amazing, and just some of the highlights are generous people don't describe themselves as generous, Erica says. I like that kind of almost apathetic kind of rejection of these questions. I like that a lot. Nora stumbles on the word lens. They're talking about contact lenses, but, she's just potentially dealt with this idea that she is a lens, so I like that little detail. Erica has been dreaming about Evie every night since she departed, versus a few times before that.
I'm just I've never dreamt about someone repeatedly.
Nope.
Multiple times a month, at least in my recollection. Maybe in my deepest dreams I do, but I definitely don't dream about my mum, my dad.
But we don't have kids, Ben. So
this is true.
I know you have cat babies, and I have my Lego Voltron, but we don't dream about them. One of the big stickling points is that Erica can't recall the last words of Evie, and I don't know if Nora is trying to pass judgment here, but it is something that will come back around, so it's important to note. Erica withdrew $1,000 or around that much. $1,000 or more, something like that.
I think she she withdrew an amount of money.
Yes, within 30 days prior to the departure, because she was planning to leave John. So, and she even says like, "Oh, we seem so happy," and I'm like, "God, nah, sis, you do not seem very happy." Like throughout this, I've been like, she seems to not approve, but then she also doesn't do anything about it. So. Yeah, you do get the sense that she's sort of trapped in this situation, and like she loves their children, and maybe he's not always the worst, but yeah, that bombshell that she was going to leave him. And the implication of that entire question, I guess, is that like if you were departed and just before it happened you withdrew a large amount of money, or if someone you know was departed and you withdrew the money, the implication is that you are funding their runaway and that they're faking it. So
yeah, like they ask, and like what was it for? Because they want like some kind of proof, like. If you took out a massive deposit on a house, then that could be explained away. But if there's no proof that you actually ended up doing that, then...
I will say that doesn't prove anything, but hey, this is the questionnaire from the Japanese. We can't...
Oh, no, I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying they do put in that caveat at the end, because it's like, I'm sure they probably did get, like, did you withdraw money? Then they started investigating it, and it was just like, oh, they just bought this thing. And they said, oh, I could have told you we bought this thing. And it's like, they have to cover their asses.
Yeah. So Erica tells this story about her grandmother who believes that this place is special. The Garden of Eden, which is cringy as fuck. And how you could prove it was special by putting a bird in a box for 3 days, and then if it flies out, you make a wish. And I don't know if it will come true, but hey. So Erica confirms that's medically impossible for a bird to survive more than like 20 hours. But she did it. She wished that her children would be okay without her. And as you said, Michael has his faith. He'd be fine. So our massive implication here is that Evie was raptured or departed so that she would be okay if Erica left. Like, if we're saying this is the departure and that everyone who departs is the rapture, and that everyone departs is going to heaven, then that's protecting Evie potentially with this wish. Or you could take it the other way, like when they depart, they die, they're gone. That certainly solves a potential problem. Like if she just ceases to exist, then she doesn't have to worry about being okay with her parents getting divorced or whatever. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, I love the idea that like Erica's so in her head and she's just like, yes, the two outcomes are either my daughter disappeared because she'd be so sad that I left my husband, or... something like, I think it's just like, I wish my daughter away because of the two outcomes. It's better for her to not exist anymore than deal with the crushing sadness of a divorce, which, 60% of marriages end in divorce or something higher than that.
People, stop getting married. Nora is adamant that her logic is bad, is flawed, and did you cause all these other departures? This kind of seems like it's more directed at herself than it is Erica.
Yeah, like Nora is not wrong. She just doesn't have any tact. She is, and forever will be a Jameson.
So Erica flips this around on her and asks her, did they die or were they departed, and what were their last words? And I don't know if Nora doesn't remember, but she doesn't answer, and she cries and she leaves, while Erica's got this whole like bitch face going on, like and then as soon as Nora leaves, she cries, and it's like, oh wow, we have all been through a moment here together.
All the Emmys for Carrie Coon and Regina King.
Yes.
Regina King did win an Emmy, but not for this show.
Yeah, well, she's great. She's fucking great. So, Nora heads home, and Kevin finally confesses about Patty. So, this feels weirdly like throwaway for such a dramatic bombshell, coming off this huge intense conversation, which would be a really nice, natural ending moment of an episode. But that's the whole point, because we're seeing this from Nora's perspective, and from Nora's perspective, she's just been through this really intense thing, and Kevin's piling on, and it's like, okay, I'm so exhausted, and now we get this from Kevin. And, because we're seeing it from her perspective, when he confirms that he can see her right now, we don't see her. I feel a lot of shows would do the thing where, like, you see her and then you don't, just to convey only he can see her, but this whole thing is from hers, so we don't see her.
Yeah, like you get the idea that there's this like little episode going off on the side.
Yeah,
this whole time of like another episode of like what Kevin's point of view is, like Kevin going out and like not picking up the baby and like getting distracted by Patty and what's going on, like just all these little bits and pieces, and it just makes it feel more lived in that he would do it at this point. Like Patty has been on his balls like all day about like,
on his balls. Is this a saying?
I don't know. I've made it a saying. It's now a saying.
Oh, don't be so on my balls about this, man. Anyway.
Yeah, and so like she's been like riding him all day, and he's just so worn down.
I mean, she literally rode him that one. Sorry.
And so she's just like, I have to tell her, and he does, and he doesn't realise that Nora's been having a terrible day as well. And
I mean, he's crying, she's crying, we're all crying here.
It's a sad show, and it's like that really, like, again, like it's a show that completely nails the idea of like mental health, and it's like you do internalize a lot of these things, and you don't discuss them with people quite as readily as you should. And obviously, Kevin is learning and is actually discussing these things in a healthy way. Yeah,
like he never spoke to Laurie about it. Like
he never spoke, but he also never asked Nora, "Are you okay?" And it's that.
That's true.
It's that communication is a two-way street, and like Nora isn't going to come around and say like, "Yeah, I threw a rock through our neighbour's window," and then confronted her about the fact that her daughter disappeared because it made me remember that my child disappeared. Like, like she is not dealing it within a healthy way, even though she has the surface level, stronger kind of like outward perception.
Yeah. Well, speaking of rocks through windows, I mean, he first says that what Patty is saying right now is that he made a mistake by telling Nora. But that moment is interrupted by Erica throwing a rock through their window. So I don't know if she knew all along or if she's put it together from the hostility that Nora has for her, but either way, she got it right and she throws one back. So intense.
And we get the greatest credit song of the entire series, I Am a Rock by Simon and Garfunkel.
So speaking of episodes happening off to the side, Erica and Nora both notice through their windows Jill and Michael are dating now. And when this happened in Community, where it's like, bombshell, Britta and Jeff have been sleeping together for months or whatever, I was like, that's really cool. Like, their lives go on outside of what we see. When I see it here, I'm like, I feel you've robbed us of a good moment now that Jill is likeable. Like, I kind of want to see her awkwardly get together with this boy. But instead, it's just like, she clearly likes him, he clearly likes her, and then just next episode, they're together. And it's like, maybe some cool Jill moments are going to come, but it kind of seems like Jill is just sort of there to walk in and out of scenes and not really get any focus ever. And, you know, it was a problem when she had focus before, so I don't know if I'm fully complaining, but...
Yeah, Jill is not the third lead that she was in season 1. Like, because she had 4 regulars around her. She had, like, her own little corner of the show, and this year they've kind of gone, no, we'll stick her with 1 regular, and their love story will play off in the margins.
Yeah. She, like, affirms to Nora that, like, I'm not asking for your permission or anything, and it's like, yeah, good for you. And also Nora just rebukes that immediately by being like, hey, I'm happy for you, he's a nice boy. It's like, okay, cool. I put that at the end just because that... It
doesn't fit anywhere else.
It doesn't, and that, I guess that's Jill this season. She'll say something wise every now and then and all that. Great episodes, great showpiece for both these actresses. Like, just give them the awards. You know, I had a much better time with this, and we did get some mystery and some development, and the Virgil thing, I feel, is building to a fever pitch. And...
We've had, like, a lot of the weird things in Jarden kind of explained at this point.
Yeah. The birds, the goats, all that stuff. And, you know, we had Laurie phoning in with the impending idea that Tom might be in Texas, Laurie might come to Texas. If Tom is there, maybe Meg will come. Who knows? It would make sense if all the regulars were in one location. But we'll see what happens there.
So, how are you feeling about season 2? Obviously, we've had an episode that you probably disliked the most since the season 1 early days.
Yeah.
But, like, on a technical level, you'd probably say it was better than most of season 1.
It's all... We're never going back to those 3 of the first 4, I don't think. And they're not even, like, awful. It's just I wasn't, like, pumped about the show like I am now. So, yeah, no, it's good. It's all great. I continue to look forward to seeing where this is all going. Like,
I feel like we could probably take a breath because... We are ramping up to the end of the season.
We are. That's so weird to say because I feel we just started season 2 and we're more than halfway through it now. So.
Yeah, we have 4 episodes left.
Yeah, and like one of those has got to have Meg in it again. Like it just has to. They're paying Liv Tyler.
I mean, like, it would be really ballsy if she's only in one episode the entire season.
And it's a rape. Anyway, speaking of that, let's do some character rankings. I have nailed down. This is purely the content of their character as presented, how likable they are as people. I love to hate them factor is not being considered. Like, how well they are acting is not being considered. This is just like, these are the characters, this is their moral fibre, I guess. So I assume you want bottom to top.
Of course.
Right. Meg...
One of these days, I'll get you to go the other way around, and you'll be completely thrown.
Yeah. Well, Meg is a rapist and the head of the GR, so I don't think I need to explain any of that. She's number 12.
Nothing in these two episodes changes.
Exactly.
What Meg did in her last
I'm going to say it's going to take quite a lot of work from John, who is number 11, to displace Meg from number 12. However, he is a hypocrite. He is an angry man. He assaults people. Erica wanted to leave him. There's a lot, he denied Matt. Like, I mean, to be fair, Matt pissed him off, but still, he turned away a man with a broken wrist and a pregnant, paralysed wife. So, bad person. Tom, number 10. I had to really think about this a little bit, but it's cool that he's away from his cult. Basically, I'm sort of re-establishing what I said last week and doing it better, I guess. It's cool he's away from the cult he was in season 1, and he's coming out with some vaguely sensible ideas now, but he potentially has the hots for his rapist. He sympathises somewhat with the GR, which is a big red flag for me, no matter how much it's explained. And he's now going to try and emulate a paedophilic cult leader to trick people. Or maybe he's legit, I don't know, but he's emulating this bad person. So Tom is at number 10. I don't remember where he was last week, but I feel this is the correct place for him right now. Laurie at number 9, just ahead of him. Again, cool that she's out of the GR, but there's not really much for us to cling on to say she's a likable human being, other than that she loves her son. And, that's no small thing. It's just, I don't really feel I'm getting a lot from Laurie beyond, now that she's out of the GR, other than this obsession with the book and this sort of raw emotion and all that. But that all comes under performance for me, and as a person, as a character, not that likable for me yet. Matt, number 8. Again,
I'm genuinely surprised he's not lower.
Yeah. You could put him below Laurie and Tom. It's just they're so close to this thing I really, really hate.
Yeah, like the guilty remnant stains everything.
It does.
Matt has not.
The relentless Christian positivity in this godless world. Everyone is annoyed by him in the world as well. Kevin continually tells him he's being an idiot, basically. And I don't think they're wrong. Erica, number 7. I struggled with this one as well. Because I don't think she's a bad person. It's just she does, on some level, seem to silently condone what John does. And, she is quite confrontational with Nora. But Nora is also pushing some boundaries. And it's interesting. This whole thing with John could be a whole there's nothing she can do type deal, in which case I wouldn't want to punish her for that. But Mary is middle of the pack as always, because what can I say? There's just nothing wrong with her, but then she doesn't do anything, so
they just pay her a lot of money.
They do. Number 5, Kevin. One of his lowest rankings, I think, since he did Murder of Dogs. He's a very mixed bag. Ultimately, he is still a person that means well, and that you root for. He's dealing with some incredibly heavy stuff. You sympathise with him. But there is also a lot of, bad stuff happening with Kevin. So,
yeah, you get 2 episodes of him being marginalised, and you kind of get the worst of Kevin, because
you do. Just he's forgetful and jeopardising that baby and talking to himself and snapping.
He's more sympathetic when you actually get inside his head.
Indeed. And when you get inside his head, you deal with Patty, who is at number 4. I had her below Kevin before. I think that was a wrong decision. But when she's sort of unshackled from the GR, she's now basically just hitting Kevin with hard truths and funny stories. So I can't really hate on that.
Ghost Patty is a lot more enjoyable than real Patty was.
Yeah, you're separating her from the GR. She barely talks about it, I don't think. Michael, number 3, it's weird. It's kind of like Laurie in that there's not a lot going on here, but he just seems like a nice kid, I guess, even though there's not much to him. So on some level I want to punish him for being boring, but this isn't about that. This is about how likable a person you are. And he is likable, I guess. But he is a Christian, so number 3.
Wait.
What?
Nora does some pretty bad things in this episode.
Well, this is the thing, Ben.
Have you Genuinely.
Jill is an angel girl in these 2 episodes who is selfless and wants to help, and Nora stole and threw a rock through a window and made a hoax call to the police and...
smuggled her brother into a town with some pretty stringent laws on,
quite confrontational with Erica, potentially resents her for having a departure.
She brought Mary to the fundraiser.
She might be number 2, and I think Jill might be the most likeable person on this show. I think that's where we're at now. So that's what season 2's like. Like bananas, right? She was perpetually number 1, and I think I'm going to have to say Jill's number 1 now. So there you go. That's the rankings. I'm as shocked as everyone else. Unless people just come for the episodes and don't give a shit what I think about the characters and turn off.
I almost wish that I'd asked you to go the other way around now.
Well, you'd be building towards the big surprise. All right, this has been good. We will be back next week as we head towards that season finale. We're not quite there yet, but we're building the ramp down.
No, we've got two episodes.
Okay, obviously I don't want you to tell me what they are.
I almost put an adjective in there, but I decided against it.
Okay, yeah, don't influence me. So, there's a lot of places we could go here. There's a lot of pieces in play.
There are definitely a lot of places we could go from here.
Okay, well, we'll go to them. You relentless little gossip. Not even a gossip.
Sorry.
Anyway, thank you very much for this. This has been another episode of Countdown to Destruction. We will see you next time.
No one laughs at God when a doctor calls after some routine tests. No one's laughing at God when it's gotten real late. Their kid's not back from that party yet.